Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Good Morning Education Show. My name is Rotimi Itai. Such a pleasure to be here. I'm excited to be here once again. This is the Good Morning Education Show. Welcome, welcome, welcome. And we're going to be having a great time today. On the show today, we'll have So once again, welcome to the Good Morning Education Show, everyone. You're welcome. And this is Ultimator. We're streaming from Lagos, Nigeria to West Africa, to Africa, and the entire world. We will just go on a quick break, and we will be right back. So welcome to the show once again, and honestly, we're so excited to have you here. And on the show, we always have a great time on the show. We always have a great time on the show. We're streaming from West Africa um, to we're streaming from Nigeria, actually, Lagos, Nigeria, to West Africa, to Africa, and the entire world. And we're always excited to have you here. Yes, absolutely excited to have you here. And we always welcome your contributions. We always welcome your comments. Always welcome your how do I put it now? Your contributions, your comments are always welcome on the show. Thank you for being there. Our tribe members, those who are loyal, who consistently join us. Thank you so much for everything. And we appreciate you. And we thank you for being a part of the show. And today will not be an exception. We're going to be having an interesting conversation, but please feel free to join us today and make your contributions, on the show. Make your contributions on the show. And also do let us know where you're streaming from. Um, yes, let us know where you're streaming from, and do not hesitate, I repeat, do not hesitate to share your thoughts, to share your moment, to share your plans with us. Okay, on the show, we normally have, what I would say is uh, we start with news. Headlines within and around the world of education. So from the news, then we'll take into the subject matter of today. Today we'll be having an interesting conversation and a subject matter that I believe you probably will be interested in. And that is where we'll take it off from. We'll have the headlines immediately, and then we'll come to that. So once again, welcome to the Good Morning Education Show. Thank you very much. Thank you, everyone. Thank you. So we're going to start with our headlines today, and we will be starting with one of the headlines. Okay. Um, so I think we're trying to have. So we're going to have the first headline is on FUTA. FUTA students protest extortion. That's very important. FUTA students protest. They protest extortion, and we know that this is something that students don't take lightly. Harassment, extortion, all those things. I think students don't take for granted or they don't take lightly. So they are protesting extortion and harassment from the authorities, and we're hearing that this has caused a lot of even breakdown, um, and some protesters also ensued due to this. We hope that things get sorted or get normalized as soon as possible. Um, that's that. So let me just have a little bit of read up on that. It says the student of the Federal University of Technology, Akure, right, Ondo State, on Monday protested the alleged harassment of um, an extortion by some suspected thugs and cultists at the second entrance of the institution. During the protest, the students barricaded the road that led to the second gate of the university, causing traffic lockdown in the area for several hours. They alleged that the thugs persistently harassed those who live at off campus at the Southgate area around the institution, especially the fresh students. They also alleged that the miscreants on many occasions would harass and chase them into the school premises without restraint from the security agent. One of the protesters who identified himself as Bola said the alleged harassment has been on for a long time and was currently becoming a daily occurrence. He said some of these boys are thugs and cultists and they have been harassing for a long time. They forcefully collect money from students living in the Southgate area. So many times they will force students to make bank transfer. Want the government to look into this. You know, of course, yeah, this is another menace. You know, it's one thing to go into university. Now it's another thing, you know, to be comfortable being in the university. It's a sad one, really, to have people being harassed in this manner, you know, very sad indeed, right? Um, but then we hope for the best. I would believe that the situation will be arrested as soon as possible. You know, the university is a place that people should feel safe, but we must recognize that also the people who are coming to university are also clients of the university. While they could be temp students, they've paid for specific services, and I believe that these services must be offered, you know, by the university. The universities must begin to see that look, this is not something that we look at and just wish away. If you're providing a service, you must make sure that that service it's your responsibility to make sure that service is unhindered or interrupted as the case may be. So you know, I think that the right thing will be done and should be done, you know, by the authorities involved. So that's that. We will be having another headline. This time around, this is talking about Ajabi Amila seeks higher educational qualification for presidential aspirants and others. It's going to be an interesting one because we're getting into the season of politics. And we all know that as in politics, a lot of times people begin to advocate for several things. So the Speaker of House of Assembly, Speaker of the House of Representatives, Mr. Femi Gbajabiamila, has called for an increase in the minimum educational qualification for persons aspiring to be future presidents of Nigeria on and other top offices. He said He said this on Monday while giving the 52nd convocation lecture at the University of Lagos, Akoka. His lecture titled Building Back Better, Creating a New Framework for Tertiary Education in Nigeria in the 21st Century, assessed the condition of tertiary education in Nigeria and suggested the specific actions needed to bridge the gap so as to favorably compete in the 21st century. Justice Amina Adamu of the Supreme Court was the chairman of the convocation lecture. Gbajabiamila argued that the age of eligibility to contest those offices had been reduced, that since the age had been reduced, it was necessary the minimum education requirement was also increased. He maintained that it would be another step in reforming the electoral system and providing strong leadership for the country. I also sincerely believe that the National Assembly needs to look into Section 131D of the 1999 Constitution with a view of increasing the minimum education qualification for persons aspiring to be future presidents of Nigeria and other top offices, including National Assembly, as against the current minimum requirement of a secondary school certificate or is equivalent. End of quote. Well, what do we say? Know that these things sometimes are just score and points to make, but have we demonstrated the political will for this? It's that's another story for another day. And then we'll go to the last headline that says Unical students lament prices of goods services on campus. On campus. And of course, we know that the campus community is quite an interesting one, very regulated, and we sometimes find that the students themselves, drive governance on their own affairs, and the students are lamenting prices of goods and services on campus. Well, while we expect that there's subsidy or subsidization should actually exist, but the truth of the matter is that we all need to realize that current situation in the country would definitely cause so many things to rise up. Price, in particular, of goods and services will rise up because the economy is on one hand experiencing a lot of shakeup. On the other hand, we have the taxation, the Financial Act 2022 is really sparing no one in the area of the tax net. The tax net is wider and broader. So everyone needs to recognize that. Everybody needs to recognize that. All right. So on that note, we will come to the conversation of the day. If you're joining us just now, I'd like to welcome you to the Good Morning Education Show, and you're welcome. Our conversation today is on a topic that we term or tag, what's the balance? What's the balance? It's a question that we need to ask ourselves. We need to ask one another, what's the balance? And when you look at things, there are many areas that we need to be able to find answers to when it comes to the issue of what's the balance. We need answers when it comes to what's the balance. But then we need to ask ourselves, in what area Are we really talking about balance? You know, in what area, how, what do we mean by balance, as it were? You know, so those are the things that want to catch our attention this morning, but will be our focus this morning. So what know that it's important that we all gain balance, balance in our perspective, balance in our pursuits, balance in our profession, balance in everything that we find ourselves. Balance, balance, balance. Very important. Very, very important to have balance. And if you are there this morning, it's possible that you've been thinking about different things and you're wondering how and where is the balance. Sometimes we push ourselves too hard, and talk about our desires, yeah, talk about our desires for our outcome. But then we need to also answer that important question that speaks about the balance. Where is the balance? Um, what's the balance? I believe that balance really and we should look at balance as a concept and a reality that we must pursue as a must. There must be balance in terms of impact and income. A lot of things that we do, we find out that a lot of things that we do come from the place of the question, where impact is always, always suggested, you know. But beyond having impact as a suggestion, we must also take up our second step to turn this from impact as suggestion to also take care of the issue of income. So while we balance impact, right, with income, we have a more structured, better still, a more rewarding outcome of our lives, of our pursuit, of who we are. You know, I believe that that's where we should be looking at. That we need to find the balance. And now, while we come back to the issue of impact and we come back to the issue of income, we also need to also um, balance resourcefulness with rest. Resourcefulness with rest. You know, um, a lot of people would will find themselves pursuing so much. You know, you want to do this, you want to do this, you want to have this, you want to have that. How do we get to have resourcefulness? You understand? How do we get to have rest? You know, how do we get to have quality of life? How do we get to enjoy life? You know, how do we get to improve life? These are many more things, are things that we must, ensure that we find, you know, balance in. And you probably would have been listening to many things around vision, goal setting, and all those things. But you owe it to yourself that as you journey along the year and journey into the year, you must find the balance. For everything that we do, there is a balance involved, there's a balance required, there's a balance to be explored. And if there's no balance, what happens at the end of the day is that a lot of people get to pierce themselves more, you know. Um, they pierce themselves more with sadness, difficulties, and all the likes, you know. And our hope and desire is that people would be able to make no mistake about the quest and the pursuit of having a balance. You all need to realize that a balance, right, is almost going to put focus in the right direction. And so let's take it back to the first thing I said. I said we need to balance impact with income. Now, I'm a very strong believer of impact, that we must seek to impact our world. We must seek to impact the people around us. We must be impactful in our education. We must be impactful in our pursuit and delivery of education. And it's important. Impact, impact, impact. Very important. But then I also need to make people recognize that when we do not take care of the balance, you will get into a state of pursuit where impact becomes an extreme to you and I. And that extreme of impact, if there is no support, if there is no structure, if there is no type of if there are no type of increase into it, it begins to affect even the integrity, the quality, and the consistency of the impact that you're pursuing. Impact is very important, but listen carefully. Beyond impact, there must be income. Now, this is where people need to master it. That as much as you have this passion to help the world, to help humanity, you know, to drive a lot of change, you must also be able to answer the question, which is the question of where is the money? Where is the income? The income will sustain your impact. The income will reward your work of impact, or the people that work with you while you pursue the impact. You see, we must make people recognize that this is a special um, plea. Many people who are impact driven to make sure that there is no loss, or better still, there's an equilibrium, or in better words, there is a balance for our income pursuit. We must, I mean, for our impact pursuit, we should balance it with income consciousness. And it might require structure to happen, it might require help to happen, it might require positioning to happen, it might require coaching to happen, but it must happen. Now let's go to the other extreme. There are people that are all about income and without impact. And sometimes I've come to realize that sometimes for you to have greater income, you might need to push for greater impact. Even the basics of providing goods and services is tied to the value that your goods and services will bring. And as much as you are able to understand value, is the bedrock of impact. So we must begin to ask ourselves, is all that we do income based, income seeking, income centered, income centric? If we can take a step further, we can balance our income drive with our impact drive. Very important. Impact is important. Income is equally important. Then we need to ask ourselves, the second angle is we need to look at our resourcefulness versus our rest. So resourcefulness speaks about creativity, innovation, and hard work. Resourcefulness speaks about so many things. Are we resourceful? If yes, our resourcefulness, can we equally say that it's not at the expense of rest? We must find a balance as a teacher, as an educator, as a professional, as a business owner, as a business person. We must make sure that there is a balance with resourcefulness and rest. That's very important because most people might end up getting a lot of things from the place of resourcefulness, and then they miss out on the quality of life, which is in the place of rest. There must be a balance. There must be a balance. There must be a balance. Now, there's another that I also want us to um, to see um, and find answers to. We need to ask ourselves, what exactly is the balance when it comes to our ability to have what you call expertise experience versus expertise exported. You must look at experience versus export. And this is what we need to recognize, that there are things that we do and do so well that people experience us all in one location, all in one setting, all in one domain. But we must know that there has to be a balance between experiencing you, your personality, your professionalism, your performance, and exporting your personality, professionality. In exporting it, it means that other people across the world get also to have a chance to experience the dynamic person that you have, to experience the giftings that you have. You understand? This is pretty much what this is talking about. And be able to answer what exactly is the balance. So I hope this is making sense. I hope you can hear us today. And if you have questions on all I've said so far, please feel free um, to ask your question. And let's know. Let's know your thoughts. Let's hear your questions. And let's see how it goes. You know. All right. So while we're waiting for questions, once again, this is the Good Morning Education Show, and we'd like to welcome you all to the show today. Thank you all for joining. And we're talking about what's the balance, and we are mindful of the concept of what balance is. Balance is more of an equilibrium, not necessarily a perfection. You know, it's something that helps us to take into consideration, you know, making sure that we have the best or that we experience the best. And so these are the things that we are sharing today. And I said earlier that in knowing the balance or in asking the balance, we must begin to look at some things that we equally get involved in that we need to qualify. We talked about impact, we talked about income, and that there must be a balance in both. We talked about the issue of resourcefulness, we talked about, and there must be a balance in both. We talked about the issue of experiencing expertise and exporting expertise. There must be balance, and these areas where we need to reflect on. We need to reflect on these things so that we're able to answer, we are able to have better outcomes, we're able to have better results, so that at the end of the day, things can actually come out and unfold in our favor. In our favor. That's very important. Having a balance is something that a lot of people struggle with in today's world. You know, a lot of people struggle with having a balance, and this is very important. This is very important. You know, and of course, I would not want us to, treat this topic without realizing that, it's also having a balance um, is also something that you have to keep. And in making it a little bit more targeted and practical, um, we must understand that the journey to, you know, understanding the balance and creating the balance is that you need to acknowledge and accept. It's a realization that must happen. You need to acknowledge and accept. You can't, you can't totally in real time have everything. at the same time. You can't do everything at the same time. And when you understand that, it gives you the consciousness of how your resources, your time, your energy, and money needs to be channeled. I recall sometimes when we have conversations, you keep hearing people say, well, you only have 24 hours. Well, some people have argued that some people have more than 24 hours. Of course, when people work with you or work for you. But what we're trying to say is that, time is a finite resource. Energy sometimes is finite. Money is finite, you know, and you must understand as long as you are able to acknowledge and accept. I think the next thing for you to do is to schedule. Very important. You must begin to see how you schedule. Scheduling helps to make balance happen. Schedule helps to make balance happen. Scheduling helps to make balance happen. Very important. Because if you acknowledge, if you accept, if you don't schedule, you're not going anywhere. You won't have much. And then we must learn there are things that we need to remove. There are things that we need to add. We need to add and subtract certain things from our reality, from our life, and from our pursuit. You know, um, and all that we're saying today is just to help someone out there who is looking at driving better outcomes, better opportunities for themselves, in themselves, and through themselves. You know, that's really what it is all about. I hope this has been helpful. I hope this has been useful. I hope this is instrumental to someone out there who is really thinking about it and brooding about it and thinking of how they can effectively leverage or true reality of the balance. Ask yourself and also give the answers to finding balance in everything that you do. Um, Without questions coming in, I really want to thank everyone, for joining us on the show today. And we will be here also tomorrow. We'll be here and we'll have a great time together as we talk about finding balance. I believe that we'll truly be able to get to find that balance, for all of us who are listening on the show today. And if you catch this later, please share this to someone, to share it to someone. And we will have a good time on the show. So thank you very much. And thank you. And God bless you. All right. So we'll be seeing you tomorrow. And until then, we have our goodbyes, as we normally say it. It's always a great morning. That's what we say. It's always a great morning on the Good Morning Education Show. Today's episode, I'm sure you probably have said, yes, short, punchy, and important. It's a reflection for you and I to recognize that it's important to identify and answer the question, what's the balance? You and I consistently need to do so that we have value in our lives and we can also add value for our lives. Thank you, Olatunde Adebayo. Thank you for, but I believe you can catch the replay and just listen to it. We talked about a lot of things about balance. And now we need to look at some areas in our balance quest. We need to make sure that we have balance between impact and income. As you pursue impact, income must not be missing. As you pursue income, impact. We also talked about the issue of resourcefulness versus rest. You must pursue resourcefulness, you must show hard work, but you must balance it up with rest. Rest is a critical component to life. And don't also live a life of leisure and rest and not be resourceful. It must be a balance. And then, of course, we talked about the issue of people experiencing your work and the good things that you have, but not just in one domain or dimension, not just in the classroom, not just in the midst of your friends, not just in your country, but you must think about the issue of exporting your experience beyond experiencing your experience. All right. So those are the things that people out there about brood on. And let's hear your thoughts and let's share the video, like our video, subscribe to our channel, tell everyone about the Good Morning Education Show. We are always here 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. West African time. I will look forward to seeing you some other time. Thank you. Until then, remember, it's always a great morning on the Good Morning Education Show. Thank you very much. Bye.